Good morning. We are going to be starting in 5 minutes. I already see some Angus heifers at ringside. That's always a good sign. Or maybe that's a cow-calf pair. Sorry. Old eyes. So we have starting getting our Angus to ringside. We are getting ready to start. We're just finishing up the scratches in our program. Test 1, 2. Test.
good morning, and a pleasure to come back. We were just talking. Of course, you can tell by the color of my hair and lack of it. It's been a day or two, and I did the Carroll County Fair many, many years ago, and I said, I don't remember this barn. I remember kind of a shade tree and, you know, not the facility that you have today. And so I was, when Chris called to fill in for him, I was very honored to come back. And sometimes you just got to go back and relive the things that kind of got you started, and this would be one of those counties that I'm certainly reliving. So I think the only thing we're going to miss today is Frank Feaser would always sit on the front row, and we would judge classes, and we'd get done at the end of the day, and Frank and I would spend the next 2 hours talking about every class that I had judged. So we're going to miss him and all the wisdom he shared with me. Let's get to business in hand, and we've got a nice way to get started with the cow-calf pair. And you know, quite honestly, this is a lot of work to drag a wet cow in here with a calf alongside, but I also think it's probably the most important thing these young 4-H'ers do. We buy these heifer projects, and I always know for our family when we bought them, we did it with one thing in mind, and that was to turn them into a cow and have our boys have a cow herd from it, and they both have done that and been very successful at it. So I applaud these young ladies for doing it. She's got a nice 2-year-old Angus cow here. Cow that's got some dimension, and she's having enough bone, she's got some body, she's good enough in terms of muscle. I think all the physical things in terms of productive traits are sure there. Has a decent udder. I don't know that it's picture perfect, but it looks like it ought to hold up in pretty good shape for a few years. Got a pretty snappy little heifer calf alongside. So let's give these two young ladies a nice hand. We get off to a great start here today of the cow-calf pair.
Your champion Angus cow-calf pair was exhibited by Aubrey O'Meara. We're now ready to start our Angus heifer division. We will be starting with Class 2. Angus heifer calves in Class 2. We should have 3 entries: Aubrey O'Meara, Georgiana Condon, and Garth Condon. Heifers coming in the class range in age from February 26, 2025 to April 25th, 2025.
well, if we get anything done at the fair, we're going to get the calves broke. And that's always the biggest hurdle when we bring these young babies in at an early age to kind of get a good look at them. And I think with that being said, I'm not convinced these first 2 heifers will always be placed this way. I think it's a little bit of a give and take for what we can tell out here in the ring. I think one big advantage the young man has is his heifer's just a little more ready for the show. She's a little easier to get around the ring. And I think her advantages are really up through the front end, her length of neck and the way her neck sets into the top of her shoulder blade. I think, the front 2/3 of that heifer is really quite nice. I guess I might be a little more inclined to think as they grow and develop, we're going to find a little more body, depth of body in particular. I kind of like the construction of the hip and hind leg of the heifer in second. Right today, as we watch them move, she's just a little ornery out here to get drug around the ring. She kind of sets her head down just a little bit, roaches up a little bit more in her top, and I'm going to blame that right now a bit more on just not quite ready to show. But I think both those heifers are nice. There's give and take on each end of those 2 cattle as to which one you might prefer. And then we have the little April heifer that we just saw in here a minute ago with her mama. A nice little calf. Again, obviously she's at a pretty big disadvantage with the lack of maturity and size as we compare those first 2. So it'll be fun to see how she continues to grow and develop. I think her mom kind of gives us an idea that she'll have enough to her. We just got to give her some time to get kind of caught up. Very good set of young calves.
Welcome here to the Carroll County 4-H and FFA Beef Breeding Show 2025. We are here at the Eddie Harrison Jr. Memorial Arena. We are in our Angus Heifer show, and the results of Class 2 is as follows. Congratulations, Garth Condon. Second to Georgiana Condon, and third to Aubrey O'Meara. Into the ring at this time, we have a single entry May yearling heifer exhibited by Aubrey O'Meara.
Our May heifer, there's some things that I think are really quite apparent that you like. Her length of body's nice. She's really smooth in the way she's attached in her neck and her shoulder, and from there back, everything blends together really good. Again, obviously, I think her real strength is in the front third of her body and the way that she's made. Got a beautiful head, nice neck, and everything's kind of assembled right up into the front third of her body. I would say probably we could give her just a little more body volume, and in particular some depth of rib, and loosen her up just a little bit in her hock. But I think when we get her stopped and propped up out here, she gives us a really nice silhouette with some quality to her look.
Congratulations, Aubrey O'Meara, for exhibiting your May yearling heifer, first in Class 3. We're ready now for Class 4. We're going to give Aubrey a second here to walk around because she will have a heifer in the next class also. In Class 4, Angus April yearling heifers, we will have 3 exhibitors, Aubrey O'Meara, Emily O'Meara, and Brian O'Meara. I feel like an O'Meara may win this class.
think some really nice things about each of the heifers that these young people can take home and build upon in a cow herd and work with. And you know, the first two just have the little extras in terms of balance and eye appeal from the side. They're especially nicer as we work out of the top of their shoulder and out to their hip than maybe the young man's heifer that winds up here in third. It's pretty close on top. I think if we could lean this one up just a little bit, then it wouldn't be very close at all. She's one of those that's kind of an easy keeper, and then she obviously likes to eat, and she does good with it. She's got just a little more conditioning in her, but she really looks her best when we put her on the lead. She's very comfortable in her stride, both ends, probably more noticeable in her hip and the construction of her hind leg when she moves. And you know, obviously, when we do melt her down, I think we would agree too, if you just look at the general shape of her rib and her hip, I still think there's a lot of heifer there underneath it. So just freshen her up a nickel, and that thing could be really a big time prospect. That's the real strength of the heifer in second. Just gorgeous up in her front end, her head and her neck, her length of body's good. I prefer the conditioning that she has on her. I think she's just right on target for a bred heifer. Standing, I don't think it's pretty hard to pick a big hole in her when she just stands there. This young lady does a very nice job in getting her presented. I don't know that she's quite as mobile when we put her on the lead like the heifer that's going to win the class, but there's a lot of things about the female in second that we sure need to recognize and consider that a very close placing up there on top. Partner, you got a good heifer too. You kind of ran into a couple of them that just have a little more balance than yours, but your heifer has enough body to her. She's got some muscle. I think the dimension part she's kind of got covered very well. She maybe just doesn't blend quite as smoothly, made quite as nicely in her hip structure and hind leg like the two ahead of you, but I think from her hooks forward, that's just a really, really nice common Angus female. So congratulations to the three young people on a good set of cattle to evaluate in this class.
Congratulations to Class 4 exhibitors. First to Aubrey O'Meara, second to Emily O'Meara, and third to Ryan O'Meara. See, I was right, and O'Meara won the class. We're ready for our next class, Class 5, Angus January, February yearling heifers. We have 3 entries, Ryan O'Meara, Avery Becker, and Grafton Condon. This should be our last regular class of Angus heifers until we move into the champion drive.
another very nice trio of heifers, and I compliment each of the cattle and the exhibitors. And once again, I think you can make a real strong case, but when you just, in my opinion, I think about the cow down the road and which one looks like she ought to have the ability to kind of maintain herself and keep herself in good rig. That's the biggest advantage I give the heifer here up on top. And she's got the extra dimension and especially the depth of body. Big chest floor, opened up good when we get in behind her. Good enough in her structure. We don't know that I'd say she's just picture perfect, but she doesn't give me any concerns of having some longevity issues down the road. So that's just a nice cow that I think also has a little of the extras that can make her a very competitive show heifer as well. It'll be fun later this fall to see how the heifer in second comes along. She's got some really unique pieces to her. First of all, you've done a great job, and you know, the hair maintenance on her, you got her looking nice. Her feet and legs are really good. You know, she's got a really nice neck. Sometimes we can kind of get to the point where they're so tight in her neck and their throat that we might not get enough body cavity, and I think that's kind of what I see in this one here. She's just naturally going to be built a little shallower, a little harder ribbed, and you know, probably in our country, and again, it's different than this country, I would say that one's going to take a little extra TLC when we get her into production. But there's some really neat breeding pieces to that one right there. I just see her as being a little too hard in the way that she's made in terms of her body cavity. On the flip side, the heifer in third is just as different as her as you can make them. She's really deep and super easy keeping, and once again, we'd probably like to freshen her up just a little bit. But as a cow, we get her turned out on some grass and get her into production, start milking, and all that fat goes away. I think we'll appreciate her a whole lot more out in the pasture than we ever would in the show ring here. So nice class. All three of them are different, and yet I think all three sure have some quality to them.
Congratulations to Class 5 exhibitors. First went to Grafton Condon, second to Avery Becker, and third to Ryan O'Meara. We are now ready to select our champion and reserve champion, Angus Heifer. From Class 2, we have Grafton Condon. From Class 3, Aubrey O'Meara. From Class 4, Aubrey O'Meara. And from Class 5, Grafton Condon. Herefords, you know what that means. You're next at the ring. Hereford exhibitors, be ready to go to the ring.
I think we've had a nice Angus show. It really kind of Comes down to 3 heifers. 2 of them are standing out here, and another heifer that's not out here yet we consider for our 2 champions. And it's give and take. I think you can make a real strong case for either of the cattle to win out here. For me, the older heifer is just a little nicer in terms of her length and her neck and shoulder junction. Keeps her, I think, that particular area, the neck and shoulder, hooked up a little more correctly than the heifer right ahead of her. And we don't give up any extra in terms of just sheer mass and dimension, so really no issues there. She's got a little ornery out here. We don't get a good picture of her right here from the side, but I think you watch her move around the ring and see that she's sure comfortable enough and got the extra smoothness and refinement that maybe the Class 3 winner doesn't have. Let's give him a nice hand. He's having to work a little harder out here, but he's going to end up with our champion Angus female. Congratulations to him.
Avery Becker returns to the ring with her 2nd place Angus heifer.
For reserve, to me, that's the real case where you just got to make a decision. The Class 3 winner, a little more like her champion with regards to her durability, her volume, and the dimension that she has. And of course, our second to her champion, we talked about, her attractive look, a nice skeleton to her. As I think about these 2 cattle, the problem we have with the heifer that wins Class 3 is more of a management thing. We've just gotten her a little too fat, and trust me, some of these cattle can live on very, very little feed. And I think if we could just freshen her up, we could get a real good appreciation of how good that female is underneath the extra conditioning. The other heifer that was second to her champion, I have a little more reservation because her problems are just kind of naturally built into her, being a little tighter ribbed, a little shallower, and I guess in my estimation could be a little harder to keep as a cow down the road. So that's kind of the situation we're in. We're going to stick with one that's got just a little more cow power, I think, and that'll be our Class 3 winner, who will be our reserve champion. Congratulations.
Your champion Angus heifer was exhibited by Grafton Condon with BKCEJRIP Lady, and she was born January 16, 2024. Your reserve champion Angus heifer was exhibited by Aubrey O'Meara and came out of Class 4 with FDE Barbara. We are now going to select our bred and owned champion. I believe we have 3 exhibitors for that: Aubrey O'Meara, Georgiana Condon, and Grafton Condon. Dates on these heifers are as follows. Aubrey's is in April, Georgiana's is a March, and Garth's is a February. And they're headed in the ring at this time. And Ryan O'Meara has so we have 4 entries: Ryan O'Meara, Aubrey O'Meara, Georgiana, and Garth Condon.
I think for our bred and owned champion, we just have one decision, whether we use the older heifer, because we've already had the 3 calves lined up earlier out here. And so I think it is a close decision. As I look at them down the road, I think just in general, those 2 calves, there's some quality things about them that maybe I don't quite see in the older heifer. We talked about the young man's heifer, how nice she's constructed up to her front end, and then the young lady's heifer that was second to him in class, a little better built in her hip and hind leg and a little deeper. So we're going to stick with our young fella here that won Class 1. Let's give him a nice hand. He'll have our first champion of the bred and owned division of the day. Congratulations to him.
And your champion bred and owned Angus heifer was awarded to Garth Condon with CCF Bernice Nitro, and she was born February 26th. We are now ready for our Hereford division. We will be starting with your May-June yearling Herefords. It looks like we have 2 entries for that class. Into the ring, we're bringing our Hereford heifers. This is our May-June yearling class. We have 2 entries, Delilah Barber and Sydney Miller. Birth dates on these heifers are May 16th, 2024 and June 5th, 2024.
we start our Hereford show with a nice pair, and especially our class winner, just very well presented. They've got her in the right rig in terms of conditioning, and I think because of that, her fresher appearance, it just gives you a real nice look from the side. Gorgeous about her head and her neck. Her length of body's good. Again, kind of falls into that category of having enough rib and enough muscle. She's not going to be overwhelming in that area, but I think she sure has enough to make a nice, useful cow down the road. That is the real strength of the heifer that winds up in second. A lot of bodies, tremendous amount of muscle when you get in behind her. It comes at a little bit of a cost, so as we got her just a nickel fat, and so she becomes a little thicker and coarser up about her head and her neck and front end. We just like to refine her up just a little bit, but that's a nice pair. Both of them, I think, sure have some value to them.
Congratulations on our Hereford exhibitors from Class 12. First was awarded to Sydney Miller and second to Delilah Barber. Class 13 is entering the ring. We have 3 entries for Hereford April yearling heifers, 2 by Kristen Ehring and 1 by Beverly Selby.
Well, I think one can make a real strong case for any of the 3 heifers to win the class. It's really kind of boils down to what's a priority for you and what you believe in and these things, making cows on down the road. And that's kind of where I start here on our top end. She's maybe not quite as elegant in terms of her head and her smoothness of the other 2 heifers, but I just reflect back on those kind that we kick out and turn into cows and have the ability to maintain themselves. I see that one in her. She's really got some, some chest floor, some rib cage, plenty of muscle. In fact, might be a little more than she needs to get her just a nickel rounder out of her hip. But I think going to be a very sensible, usable kind of a cow here on down the road once we get her past the show ring experience. The race for second is just as close. There's just a little more to the heifer in second in terms of her body depth, her length, just overall weight. The other thing, too, is I watch these 2 cattle move around the ring. I prefer the angle of her shoulder. And even though she's got a little extra set to her hock, I think her reach to her stride off her hind leg is a little more adequate than the female in third. The heifer in third's quite easily the best looking, really refined and nice clean neck, very smooth made. It comes comes at a bit of a cost to me. She's just a little flatter, narrower jawed, and then as we kind of study her all the way back, I think she just becomes a little too narrow in her general makeup, and perhaps a little stilted too off her hind leg. I'd just like to loosen her up a bit, but no doubt we get her stopped and parked, and she does give us a really, really nice look in terms of her quality and her smoothness and the balance that she has out here.
Congratulations to your Class 13 exhibitors. First went to Kirsten Ehring with CSA Little Loretta. Second went to Kirsten Ehring with CSA Wild Winona. And third was exhibited by Beverly Selby. Into the ring at this time, we are exhibiting your March yearling heifers. We have 4 entries in this class by Torrin Bosley, Lucy Flynn, Ella Fritz, and Emily Fritz. Correction on your last class. First was Kirsten Ehring with Little Loretta. Second was Beverly Selby. And third was Kirsten Ehring with Wild Winona. Apologize for that. We are on our March division.
Well, this is, I think, pretty easily the best class of the day in terms of just quality and good ones from first to fourth, and each of them, I think, sure deserve a second look out here. This class is not easy to put together. There's things about every one of these cattle that I think is really good, and maybe a thing or two you might want to tweak just a little bit to make them perfect. On the stop, this one's very nice. Excellent in the way that she's made about her face and her neck. The length of body's good. We've got her in the right kind of conditioning at this stage of her life in terms of, the lower third of her body, maybe not quite as fleshy as a couple of heifers we have in here. One thing that's a little deceptive, you would say from the side that maybe she don't have enough muscle. I would argue that is the heaviest muscled heifer in the class. You get in behind her, her pin set's really good. The way she feeds out of her shoulder back into her hip, she's got really the most natural dimension to her, in my opinion. Where I would like to maybe tweak her just a little bit is down in her rear feet and ankle just a little. We are kind of in an era right now in the show ring where we are so critical of the hind leg, and they got to be really loose ankled and all that. I will promise you, when we get her out of the show barn, we kick her out and make her a cow, you won't notice that hind leg being an issue. So it's just one of those things in the show ring where we've become probably a little overboard in how we want to make those hind legs. That I say that, and that is a good strength of the heifer here in second as we see her today. I don't know down the road that it's going to be much different. In fact, we might require a little more hoof trimming on this one than we do the one ahead of her. The real strength in the heifer in second is her tremendous body volume, with or without the extra conditioning. I think her problem is she puts the conditioning in the spots that's a little more noticeable. She keeps it down in her chest and the lower third of her body, unlike the heifers that we have on either side of her. So as a good, productive utility cow that's just going to be easy to maintain, I see that in her. There's no doubt about it. Maybe not quite as agile out of her front end, but very, very nice heifer, high quality heifer. Both of those I think are presented very well. A little different model in third, big and long and heavy boned, and her better days are ahead of her. We just kind of got to get caught up in terms of the dimension that she needs. And so again, if you don't mind them being a little bigger, then this one here I think brings a lot of fun breeding pieces to this young lady's program, because she does have a really nice look. She has great presence out here in the ring. I just like to bring her along a little, and it'll happen this fall. We can get a little more body shape and a little more to her to kind of accommodate the extra frame that she has, and things are going to change on this one. I do want to say the best part of this pair right here is that young lady showing. She does a stellar job in getting that big old creature set up and presented. So very nice heifer here. And I tell you, I struggled a lot as to where I put the heifer in fourth. She's a lot like her second place heifer in terms of moderation and rib. Probably has a little more muscle maybe than the heifer we talked about in second. Like the heifer in second, she's a little heavier conditioned. I think where she differed and where I decided to kind of slide her into fourth is we study her structure. She's just a little straight for me in her shoulder and her hock, and again, a little more puffiness in those joints, and just doesn't move quite as athletic as I like. But boy, standing, I think she deserves several looks to kind of bounce her up higher in this lineup if you sure like. So 4 very nice Hereford heifers. Each of them, I think, have tremendous breeding value for these young people. Good job, Bert.
Congratulations, Emily Fritz with SSS Fancy. First in that class, March Hereford heifers. Second went to Ella Fritz. Third to Lucy Flynn. And fourth to Torrin Bosley. Our last class of Hereford heifers are walking in the ring at this time. We have 3 entries: Ella Swan, Madison Young, and Everly Hester. Heifers in this class are in your February division with birth dates from 2/2 to 2/28. First and second place heifers, please start lining up.
seems like a lot of times I make this statement, and this is a true statement. There's not a right or wrong way of placing livestock sometimes, but there has to be an official way. And that's what I want to say about this class here, and I'm sure we'll have many more today, that, you know, every class is up for discussion, and probably a couple years from now, the truth will be known as to which one is the best one when we kick them out and turn them into cows. And I'm going to hang my hat on if we could lean this one up, just let her live on atmosphere for a few months. We're going to like that one a lot. You know, she's just got so much power and punch. And the thing you ask yourself at this age, is she that big, or is the heifer in second that small? And probably ideally we'd kind of like to be right in between them. I just see a lot of good in this one as a mama cow. You know, first thing that you're gravitated towards, that dark red liver color, and then the extra mass and body that she has. She's going to have a pretty nice udder, it looks like, when we get the fat out of it. And I think for as big and powerful as she is, she still motors around the ring really good. But there's things obviously up front in her neck and her shoulders, and things that we want to tweak just a little bit if we can. The heifer in second, really nice. She's just one of those that's just, I think, too small. You know, I don't know that I want them great big, but I would like to make that one a little bit bigger and higher performing if we could. This young lady does a very nice job in getting her presented. The heifer is very attractive up front, her shoulder, you know, just the physical things about her that we see is, I think, quite nice. I just don't know that there's enough cow there down the road for a purebred animal, that is. But you've got a nice entry. It'll be fun. And like I said, the truth will be known once we turn them into cows. Our heifer in third is the really good looking one of the group. Really sweet about her neck, and smooth and clean. She's refined. Probably one of those that falls in the crack out here. She's not as big and powerful as the first one. You know, she doesn't have the extra stoutness of bone and look, a punch like we have in the heifer in second. So as good as she is in terms of her quality and her balance, we just need to maybe make her a little more powerful in her overall build. Nice trio again. You guys have had a very good Hereford show. I think quality in every class to work with.
I'd like to congratulate our Class 15 exhibitors. February yearling heifers. First was awarded to Everly Hester, second to Madison Young, and third to Ella Swan. We're ready to select our champion Hereford heifer at this time. From Class 5, we have Sydney Miller. From Class 12, we have Sydney Miller. From Class 13, we have Kirsten Ehring. From Class 14, we have Emily Fritz. And from our last class, we have Everly Hester.
Well, as I just mentioned, I think you've had a really nice Hereford show. I kind of expect that when we come to this part of the world. There's a lot of good breeders up here, and people have had success coast to coast in showing Hereford cattle. So congratulations to our 4 class winners. The thing that I like about each of the 4 is they have some quality to them. They have some things that we can work with as a, as a breeding piece down the road for these young people to work into their cow herd. The heifer in Class 3 suits me the best in terms of just all the totals that she has. So let's give this young lady a nice hand. That was a very good class, and I think a really good representation here in the Hereford breed.
We're going to bring Ella Fritz back in from Class 14 to compete for reserve.
as we just mentioned, that was a really strong class. I thought there was give and take on those 2 cattle up on the top end. We just went for a little more look and length in heifer that wins it. But I think it's just, it would not be right if we don't keep those 2 cattle together. So we'll use our classmate for a reserve champion. Congratulations.
Congratulations to Emily Fritz. She exhibited your champion Hereford heifer with SSS Fancy, birth date of March 5th. And Ella Fritz is your reserve champion Hereford heifer with Dietzman's Angel. Congratulations to both of those exhibitors. We are now going to complete a bred and owned selection.
If I'm not mistaken, we've already placed these 2 once. I better not mess it up and switch them, right? So I don't know which one of these young ladies is the owner, but where the heifer, there she is. All right, well, you got the right one this time, so maybe I picked the wrong one the first time. But at any rate, let's give her a nice hand. She's got a good pair of bred knowns, and we're going to use the one that's just a little stouter, a little more volume for a champion. Congratulations.
Congratulations, your bred and owned Hereford champion was exhibited by Kirsten Ehring. Thank you for the cheering section here. Following along in your program, we are now moving to the Red Angus division. We're going to start that breed with Red Angus September heifer calf. We have a single entry by Lexi Zepp.
Another really good example of a heifer that we bring into the show ring, where I really think her value will be in the pasture someday. I just see a lot of cow potential in her. Her depth of rib is good. Really got a broody look about her front end, her neck and her shoulder. There's enough muscle for a Red Angus female. I'm sure in the show ring there'll be some that are a little heavier bone, maybe a little nicer in the design of her hind leg than what she is, but I just like the potential she shows today as a good, useful kind of a cow here on down the road for this young lady. Good female.
Congratulations, your Class 20 winner was Lexi Zepp. We're going to give her just a moment to switch heifers because she also will be exhibiting in Class 22. We have Class 22 is Red Angus February March yearling heifers. We will have 2 entries, Lexi Zepp and Rowan Kaiser.
The young lady will have our class winner, the slicker-haired female, and a little like the last one she brought in here. I just love the value of a cow here, her length of body, the extra rib and dimension she has, and a nice hip. Looks like she's going to have a real pretty udder once we get her to that stage in her life, and maybe a little like the other class winner you had, maybe not perfect on her hind leg, but usable. You know, we don't see any problem with her getting crippled up because she's too straight. Maybe has just a little extra set, maybe not as coordinated in the way that goes to the ground, but I like that heifer a lot. And I like the heifer in second a great deal too. She's really nice looking up through her front end. She probably has a little extra bone that we don't find in the heifer that wins the class. You know, the set of her hind leg, her pins, that's made right too. I think the one thing, if we could, and we sometimes harp on these cattle being too fat, I think we could put a little more bloom and conditioning on her, and that really changes the game on her. I think that's a heifer that's got a lot of quality to her. She's just a little behind right now compared to the more powerful heifer that's going to beat you. But 2 very high quality females here in a Red Angus show.
Congratulations to Lexi Zepp with CAF Larkaba Princess, March 8th heifer, and your second place went to Rowan Kaiser. We're going to select your champion and reserve champion, Red Angus female at this time. We're bringing Lexi Zepp's September heifer from class 20, and we have Lexi's March heifer from class 22. And can you bring in the reserve, the second place to Lexi, please? And this is Rowan Kaiser with his second place out of class 22. Shorthorn exhibitors, we are moving to your division quickly. Shorthorn exhibitors.
All right, just three, but three very nice red Angus. I'm going to stick with the last two that we just seen in class. The heifer that wins this is kind of a nice blend of the calf and the heifer that stood second to her in class. She's got the little extras that maybe we'd like to improve upon on the other two cattle. Reserve, we're going to come back and use her classmate. I still think there's a lot of good in her, and not very often do we get to go to a show and say she's too skinny. So that's not a bad thing, but I think if we're going to be a little more competitive here with that heifer, just to put a little more bloom, a little more conditioning on her, let her true color shine, you know, and then she's going to be a really nice heifer. So our two champions come out of the last class. Let's give these young people here a nice hand. They deserve it for a good quality set of red Angus females.
Congratulations to Lexi Zepp for exhibiting your champion red Angus heifer with CAF Princess, and Rowan Kaiser for exhibiting your reserve with Cow Creek Greta. That does conclude our red Angus division at this time. We are moving into Shorthorns, class 25, Shorthorn heifers. Class 25 Shorthorn heifers are entering the ring at this time. We have two entries, Sawyer McGrew and Bridget Barber. These heifers were born September 24th and October 16th, 2024.
The young man and his roan heifer will be our first class winner here in our Shorthorn show, and a very nice female, really good from her hooks forward. Obviously a nice look about her front third. Her body depth and shape is good. She's got plenty of muscle for a Shorthorn. Might want to loosen her up just a little bit in her upper hip and her hock when she goes, but boy, from there forward, that's just a really high quality individual. young lady with our dark red heifer's got a nice cow prospect as well. Her body length is exceptionally good, enough rib cage, enough muscle in her. I think the difference, we get them parked out here side by side, maybe doesn't get her neck and head out of her shoulder quite as nicely as our class winner, and maintain her levelness back to her tail set and her pins quite as good. But we get the functional parts of her in terms of some length and some rib and some muscle. She's quite nice in terms of that regard.
Congratulations to Class 25 Shorthorn exhibitors. First was exhibited by Sawyer McGrew and second by Bridget Barber. If you're following along in our program, Class 26 is a scratch. Class 27 Shorthorn March-April yearling heifer class has 3 entries: Lillian Selby, Alyssa Spielman, and Atlee Hoy.
Nice group, and once again, I think there's good things of each of the cattle in here, especially these first 2 being just a little longer, a little bigger stature than our white heifer. Of the 2 up on top, you get behind them, this one is really impressive. The spread she has to her top, big wide pin set, plenty of muscle when you get in behind her. She's bold in her rib. And I think movement-wise, she's sure okay. There's no issues there that we need to get real alarmed with. I hope that she's bred, and if she is, that we're really fixed her underline. Right now, as we kind of study her from the side, the relationship of her chest back to her flank maybe doesn't come together quite as nice as we like. So as we bring this one along, if she gets a little more calf, that'll certainly help the underline design on her. But nice entry, and a very nice entry in second as well. Really a fresh appearing heifer in terms of conditioning. Her length is good. Structure-wise, and I don't have any real issues with her. As we kind of studied through her midsection, maybe not quite as bold, and certainly back into her hip, as wide set in her pins and as powerful from behind. But I love her from the side, her length, her flexibility, the refinement that we see in her, just real ladylike in the way that she appears up into the front third of her body. So a nice pair up on top, and not to take anything away from the little white heifer. If we didn't have to compare her in regards to size, we'd say that's a nice female because she does balance up really good. She's smooth. She's got some femininity to her. It's kind of that issue of the performance thing where maybe it's just a nickel small out here compared to the other two big, powerful females. But a good quality set of heifers here in your Shorthorn class.
Congratulations to Class 27 Shorthorn exhibitors. First is awarded to Alyssa Spielman, second to Lillian Selby, and third to Atlee Hoy. Into the ring at this time, we have Class 28 Shorthorn January, February yearling heifers. We should have 3 head. Birth dates on these heifers range between February 11th and February 24th, 2024. At the conclusion of this class, we will be selecting our champion and reserve champion Shorthorn female.
On this class, these 2 roan heifers are sorting up, and they can be flip-flopped. It really, again, there's some things about each that I like, and we're going to change each of them just a bit if it would be possible. This bigger heifer that wins from the profile she does because of her length and strength at top. She's really nice in her underline as you study her from her sternum back into her flank. Got good bone work. As we put them on the move, I preferred the design of her hind leg and the way she handled it. But up on the front end is where I'd like to change her. She's a little steeper up in her shoulder, just doesn't reach out and kind of grab the ground quite as comfortably as we'd ideally like. But stop and stare, put together like this from the side, I think that's a really nice heifer to represent our class winner. In seconds, a really bold, powerful one. A little like the last one that won the class. You get behind her, she's really impressive, and the spread to her top, big pin, white base, she goes away. She's got tremendous width underneath her. I think she actually moves a little nicer out of her front end, but I'm going to get a little more critical of her hind leg. It's kind of, that's the big area I'd sure like to fix her, and I'm going to accept some deviation, but that one's probably just a little past what I like. So, but a nice heifer. I like her from the side a great deal, and some of the breeding pieces that she has. The heifer in third is really refined. You know, she doesn't have a lot of hair, but you can still see her length and her flatness of joints and her smoothness. That all to me is just femininity characteristics. She gets just a little out-horsed here in terms of some bone and dimension when you get in behind her, but there's some good things to work with for this young man, especially from the standpoint of having a real ladylike one that we can mate to a bull that's got a little bit more power to kind of make the ideal mating down the road for him.
Congratulations to Class 28 Shorthorn exhibitors. First is awarded to Haley Becker, second to Elena Enoff, and third to Lane Miller. Into the ring at this time, we are going to select your champion, Shorthorn heifer. First exhibitor in the ring is Sawyer McGrew from Class 25. Class 27 is being represented by Alyssa Spielman. And from Class 28, we have Haley Becker. Our seconds are on standby.
Outstanding Shorthorn show. These three really represent a lot of quality. There's some alikeness, not only besides the color pattern part, but just the similarity from the side. They all balance out very nice, and they have just a lot of quality, I think, in the way they're presented out here. We started off with a bang here in this younger fall division. This heifer is really good up in through her neck and her shoulder. I like her underline. I think she moves good enough out of her front end. I still would like to just tweak her a little bit in her hip. I think if we can lengthen her hip up and design her hock a little differently, that would make that heifer motor just a little nicer out of her rear end, but that's a really high quality female. The heifer out of Class 2 built a little differently. Sheer strength is from behind. She's really bold and powerful, muscular, yet still handles her feet and legs very nice. I think the key thing with her is just to kind of keep her fresh. She's moderate. She's not going to be one of those we have to put a lot of extra energy into, because she's kind of built accordingly to be able to maintain herself. And then, of course, our last class winner, very nice. She kind of fits the mold of the two ahead of her, maybe a little steeper shouldered than what's ideal, but from there back, an excellent female. Kind of comes down to the first two heifers that won those first two classes. I think today there's one that came out of Class 2 is just enough more powerful. The edge in her hind leg and the way it's constructed kind of gives her the benefit. She'll be our champion. Congratulations to her.
In the ring for contention for reserve is Lillian Selby.
When we bring our second into our champion, it doesn't make it any easier. I like a lot of things about her. I think structurally she's as good as any we had in the Shorthorn show. She has some refinement to her. Not as powerful, we've talked about that. You know, not the quality of hair coat, just the quality of look like we have in the calf up here, but that's a very good female as well. I'm going to go back, though, and pick up our first class winner of the day, our young man's fall heifer. Let's give him a nice hand, too, for an excellent entry. Two very, very fine champions in your Shorthorn show.
Your champion Shorthorn was exhibited by Alyssa Spielman out of our April division with Shanti, and your reserve champion Shorthorn heifer was exhibited by Sawyer McGrew with GCR Mona Mad. We are now going to have our bred and own class. We have two exhibitors, Sawyer McGrew and Atlee Hoy.
Another rewarding part of being in the breeding livestock program in 4-H is when you get to actually breed one of those champions, and this young man has done that. We just rewarded his heifer reserve overall in the show, and then obviously out here in the bred and own division, she needs to keep that title in terms of being a champion. So let's give him another nice hand. He bred a really good female here. Congratulations, young man, for a very nice entry in our bred and own show.
Congratulations to Sawyer McGrew for exhibiting your champion Shorthorn bred and owned heifer. That will conclude We're going to go ahead with our Shorthorn Plus show. We have two entries in class 33. Two entries, class 33. Entering the ring at this time, we have class 33. We have two entries, Georgiana Condon and Piper Gall. This will be your champion and reserve champion Shorthorn Plus, as these are the only two we have in this division.
in a perfect world, we'd have one that's kind of between the two in terms of size. And again, we're not really sure the age of this heifer, but I think as a predictor as a cow, she'll still be big enough. She's not going to be a little cow in terms of weight. She's moderate in her frame, but her body volume, the density that she has in that regard is sure good enough. She's got a nice look when we get her stopped. But what seals the deal when we put them on the lead, she's just got more reach to her stride off her hind legs. She's just more athletic, I think, out here as we take her around the ring than is the roan heifer. The length of body is really good on that roan heifer. She's a little bigger in kind. She has enough muscle. You get in behind her, you can appreciate that. Maybe with that extra frame, she becomes a little shallower from the side. I think the biggest thing we want to do, though, is just kind of loosen her up a little bit on her hind leg and her joints, kind of free them up a bit more and have her seem to be a little more comfortable as she travels about this show ring. But good pair of heifers. Each of them are just different in type and kind.
Results of Class 33 is as follows. Your first went to Georgiana Condon, and she will be your champion Shorthorn Plus and your champion Shorthorn Plus bred and owned heifer. And your reserve champion Shorthorn Plus was awarded to Piper Gall. That will complete our Shorthorn Plus division. We're now ready for our Simmental division. Looking for 2 entries for Class 38, Jacob Frock and Grady McGrew. Hot off the press announcement, for those of you ringside, Tubby's is offering breakfast sandwiches 2 for $1 until they're gone. Again, if you still need something for breakfast, run over to Tubby's because he's got breakfast sandwiches, buy 1, get 1 free, and lunch is ready. We have our Simmental October Heifer Calf division in the ring. We have two exhibitors, Jacob Brock and Grady McGrew. Again, Simmental Heifers division are currently showing. Class 38 on page 9. Our exhibitors are Jacob Brock and Grady McGrew.
Our two young men start our Simmental show out with a bang here. This will be our class winner that's just made our circle. Very nice heifer. In fact, if it gets better than this, then we have one heck of a Simmental show. This is a heifer that's going to be pretty moderate as a cow, and yet still really dense. She's got a lot of substance to her. Good skeleton underneath her, and yet we get her stopped. She doesn't fight you so much. We can see she has a lot of presence as well. So really great start here in our fall calf to get us going. Heifer is in second, just a whole different rig right now. She's a really green heifer. Her body length is good. She's got some muscle to her. She's going to be nice enough about her neck and her shoulder. Probably structure-wise is where she differs the most to our class winner. Not built quite as special to her pins and off her hind leg, but I think there's some pieces to work with here on this female, especially from the standpoint of having some femininity down the road.
Congratulations, Grady McGrew with GCR Honey Bell, first in your Simmental October division, and second was awarded to Jacob Brock with Fancy. Coming in the ring at this time, we have Simmental March Yearling Heifer entry by Grady McGrew.
Well, I said I didn't know if it could get any better, and I don't know that she's much different than the calf we just saw in here. Just kind of the same version and mold, but just a bigger, older heifer. Really loose made, lots of body cavity, and again, got her in pretty nice rig in terms of conditioning. As we watched her walk in the ring, really nice in the flexibility that she has. So going to be a moderate cow, just like the last calf we saw, but still going to have plenty of density and substance to her. Another very, very fine entry here in our Simmental show.
Results of class 39. First went to Grady McGrew. We're now ready to select our champion Simmental heifer. From class 38, we have Grady McGrew's heifer being exhibited by Alyssa Spielman with a birth date of October 16th, 24. And from class 39, Grady McGrew is exhibiting a heifer born March 18th.
Two really nice Simmentals. They complement one another from just a type standpoint. Moderate, nice looking cattle that have some dimension to them. The big heifer from the side, really flexible, the ability to get her neck up out of her shoulder as you watch her move. She looks really comfortable because of that. She's a little looser spine, which all that kind of helps the mobility of her. As you study her from the side, her joints work really good in terms of flexibility. The one area where I think the calf does excel as you kind of study their foot placement to the ground. This heifer rolls in a little up front, kind of rolls out just a little off her hind right. But again, so I think, in terms of the surface and the foot placement might be just a little stronger right now on the calf than the big heifer. Part of that is also an age factor too. We get them bigger and heavier, and we start to detect more of that. But she's a quality animal, I think, and just really love her from the side, the way she can reach and get out and take a nice step and still have a mama cow look to her. So, young man, you have a very nice pair of Simmental heifers. Congratulations. This will be the champion. Your calf will be the reserve. Very good set of females.
Your champion Simmental heifer comes from class 39 as an exhibited by Grady McGrew with GCR something about. And your reserve is also exhibited by Grady McGrew, GCR Honey Bell. Your champion bred and owned would have been Grady's entry from the March division, GCR Honey Bell, and we will see her back at the end of the show for the selection of our champion bred and owned female. I believe we're now moving on to our AOB division, all other breed division. We're looking for heifers in class 45. Class 45, please make your way to the ring. We're looking for class 45 AOB heifers. AOB exhibitors, we are in your division. Start making your way ringside. Please be with your heifers. AOB division. In the ring, we have class 45, a single entry from Madison Matthias with a birth date of February 26, 2025.
Want to see how serious of a White Park breeder she is, and she knows her stuff. And Yeah, and we don't find a lot of these cattle. We were just talking about how in certain parts of the world, if you want to have a cow herd and you're looking for something that's not going to be real big upon maturity and you got a little acreage, this breed fits in there really nice. And this little February heifer calf that's got a nice quality look to her. She's got some eye appeal, some angularity, and just like we would expect within the breed, not going to be real excessive in terms of mature weight and size. So congratulations, young lady, and thanks for all your knowledge too. That's good. Sometimes kids just show one, they don't know anything about them, but I appreciate the fact she's done her homework here on this breed. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Madison Matthias with Silver Hill Reese. In our AOB Class 46, we're looking for Josie Beiser and Tristan Kaiser. 2 entries, April yearling heifer class.
Get him in line for bookkeeping. Right. Don't want to screw that up. Okay, let's go ahead and maybe pull her in there too. 2 really nice heifers representing their breed. Young lady, you're second. Hey. The main Angus, the Mangus will be our class winner here. That from the side is where she really excels, kind of like the Simmental we talked about in terms of some flexibility and the ability to get out and take a big old long comfortable step. Belongs to her. She's in nice conditioning, and I think because of that, it's kind of helped keep her front end fresh, down in through her chest just a little fresher than the limb flex. Not as powerful as you get in behind her maybe as the limb flex, but I think for a female, in my opinion, she's got enough punch, she's got enough muscle, really a nice high quality heifer. Because the limb flex is really good as well. Lots of dimension to her, rib cage is good, big strong hip. I like her pin set. Her hind leg is usable, there's no doubt about it, and not maybe quite as fancy because she's not quite as big bone and quite a loose jointed as the main Angus, but it'll work. Maybe just freshen her up just a nickel down in her sternum, and then that pair gets really, really close as to which one you might like best. 2 really nice females, though, this division.
Congratulations to your AOB exhibitors from our April yearling heifer class. First to Tristan Kaiser and second to Josie Beiser. Into the ring at this time, we have our AOB March yearling heifer exhibitors. We have Cassidy Lewis, Cadence Hoy, and Garth Condon.
Okay, AOB show continues to really impress us. Our young lady is going to be our class winner. Again, just a gorgeous heifer from the side. Maternal is what I think kind of says all about her. Beautiful head and neck and shoulders. She blends together good. Plenty of body, plenty of muscle. Moves really nice out of her shoulder. I think she handles that really good, and she's again useful in her hind leg. There'll be some that might be a little more critical of it, but I think there's nothing wrong with it. The best part is you got a good heifer and you got a great showman. You're doing a really good job, sister, getting that heifer presented. Congratulations to you. Heifer in second, on the other end of the spectrum, very, very powerful, big top, thick-ended, lots to her in terms of just dimension from one end to the other. Maybe just a little more coarseness. Kind of reel her back just a bit in conditioning, but we will value that one a lot more, I think, in production, or at least I hope we do. We melt some of that fat off her. I think we're going to like a lot of things about her on down the road as well.
Congratulations to our exhibitors in class 47. First went to Garth Condon with Miss 44, and second to Cadence Hoy with TSAMS Remedy. We are now going to select our champion and reserve champion AOB heifer. From class 45, we have Madison Matthias with a February 26, 2025 heifer. Your April yearling is being sorry, I made a mistake. So Cadence Hoy was first in our March yearling class with TSA Miss Remedy. So in the ring, we have Madison Matthias with our February. We have Tristan Kaiser with your April and Cadence Hoy with your March.
Well, the AOB was a really nice division. Obviously, the breed differences that can make it a bit of a challenge on placings, but we still end up with a nice lineup to pick our champion from. It kind of boils down to the last couple of classes. The main Angus, she's maybe not looking quite so special right now. Circle that thing around there, girl. You're getting outshone by her. That's a good heifer. Really looks good on the move. Just so nice in her foot placement, flexibility, length's good, freshness of conditioning, has enough to her. You know, she's kind of got the little extras out here in the show ring, and sometimes, even though it might frustrate me that we talk about the little extras, that is what makes the difference sometimes, are those little things. Because I think the March heifer, I'm not sure what breed type, I might call her a Sim Solution, but she is one that's really nice looking. I love that one. Standing, I think her quality is excellent. Like I said, maybe just a little more timid in the way she handles her hind leg, but that's a good female and a very, very good showman. We're going to go ahead and use the main Angus. We put him on the lead. I think she has the advantage out here. Congratulations to her.
Your champion was exhibited by Tristan Kaiser, and we're going to bring Josie Beiser back in for reserve.
Our second to our champion, another very nice heifer, and we mentioned her, just a couple little things, a little extra sternum, and again, maybe just not picture perfect in her hind leg, like the one behind her. We're not going to get overcritical of it. You know, she's got a lot of mass and dimension to her. Again, really nice female. The other one I like from a quality standpoint is the March heifer that our young lady shows. Let's give her a nice hand. She'll be our reserve champion in the AOB division.
We're going to ask Josie and Madison Matthias to stay in the ring for the selection of our bred and own. So we have 2 entries for our bred and own. Josie Beiser is exhibiting Flirt, and she's an April 22nd. And Madison Matthias is exhibiting Reese, and she's a February 26th.
In our champion bred node AOB division, I'm glad we're finally going to get to give recognition to the limb flex. I thought there were 3 very nice heifers in that division, so and it's even more rewarding, this young lady, that she bred this one herself. So congratulations to her. The older heifer, the limb flex, will be our champion bred node. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Josie Beiser with Flirt, for exhibiting your champion AOB bred and owned heifer. I believe we are now moving to our commercial heifer division. We have 5 classes. These will be judged by weight. Your commercial heifers are judged by weight. Class 1 is a single entry with a weight of 849 pounds, exhibited by Josh Green.
Start our commercial division with just a real nice, useful heifer, and you know, it kind of sits right in there. When we think about commercial cattle, they need to be practical, they need to be pretty sensible and mature size, and we see that in her. Her length is good, smoothness is good. She has enough of the rib cage, a muscle thing that we talk about. I think in the show ring, we'd maybe like to just fix her a little bit as we go from her hooks into her pins and the set and design of her hind leg. But I think she's a very useful kind of a female, and hopefully will make a good cow for this young man here down the road.
Class 1 was won by Josh Green. Commercial heifers class 2. We have 4 entries: Brendan Bosley, Cassidy Lewis, Lane Huff, and Emma Harrison. Heifers in this class range from 1,103 pounds to 1,108 pounds. I'm sorry, the weights are not 968 to 1017. I had to go over a category. Your weights are at the very right-hand side of your page if you're following along in your program. 968 to 1,017 pounds.
A little bit of a variety to pick from. There's really a situation here where I don't think a person can be too wrong. It's just, you know, what really works best for you. I think in the show ring we have a little more of the extras here. In our class winner, you know, she has a really nice look to her from the side and the way she's constructed up front. A little extra bone work, and then no surprise when you get in behind him. That's the one that's the most impressive in terms of having some real dimension and shape, especially work back into her hip. Heifer in second, really long, and I think as we put them on the move, I felt like she kind of held herself together a little bit better in her underpinning than the female that winds up here in third. Not the most impressive from behind. She's a little narrower made when we get back into her pins, a little finer bone, but I think we could say that really for all 3 of the heifers we have winding this class up with. I think it's her length, her mobility to get out here and move and travel and look comfortable is kind of what kept her up into our second spot. I love the depth of body, the smoothness of the heifer here in third, and yet she's got a real attractive look up in through her front end. A nickel shorter body, like the heifer ahead of her though. She's a little narrow when you get in behind her. Probably what was most concerning to me, we go down at the ground and not as good in her hoof quality or foot shape, maybe a little longer in her toes, a little shallower in her heel, and so there might be some issues here we might have to think about long term as a cow. But there's a lot of nice things about her depth, her smoothness, the pattern, the femininity are the strengths that I see in her. The heifer in fourth winds up being a lot longer than her, probably has more bone, and I'm going to predict a little more muscle than the heifer we just discussed. Doesn't balance out quite as nicely. She's got a little more neck in her and not quite as nice and level in her top and her hip construction as the heifers ahead of her, but we could bump her up a notch or two because of the dimension when we get in behind her and her length of body. So a very nice class. I think probably the show heifer really ends up being our class winner up here on top.
Congratulations to Class 2 exhibitors in our commercial heifer division. Brendan Bodsley was first, Cassidy Lewis second, Emma Harrison third, and Lane Huff fourth. Into the ring at this time, we have Class 3 of your commercial heifer division. We have 2 entries, Kylie Kaler and Eva Steffen. Heifers in this class range in weight between 1,054 pounds and 1,100 pounds. We're looking for Class 4 and 5 commercial heifers to ringside, please.
This class of commercials, the Black Baldy will be our class winner. Just a little more complete again. I think the big advantage she has, we get her stopped out here on the profile. I think she's balances out better, and it's primarily because of her middle third. From her heart back into her flank, she's shaped really nice. I think she's going to have a real pretty udder when we get her into production, and I think the red heifer will too, by what we can tell at this stage of the game. So very nice, just a good, complete commercial heifer here that just really doesn't have any big major holes to her. Red Baldy, really long body, might have a nickel more bone to her than the Black Baldy that we've started with. And we put that little extra length and frame to them. It takes just a bit more depth of body to kind of balance things out, and that's where she runs a little short out here. It just doesn't have quite the sweep to her rib or the lower rib cage to her like the Black Baldy. But some nice breeding pieces for this young lady here with her red heifer.
Congratulations, Kylie Kaler was first in our commercial heifer division class 3, and Eva Steffen was second. Into the ring at this time, we have a single entry exhibited by Marshall Mongold with a weight of 1,208 pounds. Single entry, 1,208 pounds.
Well, this single entry, the obvious things about her is from the side, you can surely appreciate her depth of body, her ease of keeping. In fact, she's one of those that just kind of has that look like you show her a kernel of corn and she can probably put on body condition and fat. And so that's kind of the, maybe become a little bit of a disappointment or disadvantage when you have that kind of TLC that you put into one that's easy keeping like that. It becomes a little fatter, maybe a little coarser. But hopefully we get her in nursing a calf and milk some of that fat away. I think she can make a pretty kind of a cow down the road. We're just going to have to lean her up some. It'll come. She'll get skinnier someday. There's no doubt about it.
Congratulations to Marshall Mongold, first in Class 4. Class 5 is in the ring, and the exhibitor is Libby Green. This heifer is weighing 1,290 pounds. I know our commercial heifers are lining up at the ringside for the selection of our champion commercial heifer.
Somewhat like our last heifer, this one we have in the ring is really deep and smooth. I think where she differs and maybe is a little better is up in the front third of her body. She's a lot nicer under her jaw and down through her chest. But once again, one of those kind that I think will be pretty easy to keep. I think the biggest thing I would like to improve upon her as we watch her move is to give her a little more strength in her hind leg. She could use just a little bit more bone work to kind of match all the body mass and size that she has. But a very nice entry, especially up through the front third of her body. I think she's very attractive up through her front end.
Congratulations, Libby Green. She exhibited first place in Class 5. We're going to let Libby exit the ring, and then we'll bring in our first place winners and select our champion and reserve commercial heifer. From Class 1, Josh Green with a heifer weighing 849 pounds. Brendan Bosley is exhibiting your Class 2 winner, and her weight was 968 pounds. From Class 3, we have Kylie Kaler exhibiting a heifer weighing 1,054 pounds. Marshall's heifer is weighing in at 1,208 pounds. And Libby's heifer is weighing in at 1,290 pounds.
We had lots of nice opportunity or options, I guess I would say, in your commercial show, different kinds of cattle. And, you know, the key thing is hopefully these people, young 4-H'ers, can take them home and turn them into cows and, you know, get them bred upright and raise something better than what they are. So the one that's most different out here, and I think has the opportunity to raise something with more value, is a solid black heifer that comes out of the second class. So let's give this young man a nice hand. He'll have our champion commercial heifer.
We're going to have Cassidy Lewis return to the ring with her second place heifer weighing 998. If you have a breed division champion or reserve, please start lining up. We're looking for breed division champion and reserves to be lining up.
All right, and another heifer I like a lot, and as a cow especially, was the Baldy heifer that come out of Class 3. So, sweetheart, if you want to pull her in, she'll be our reserve champion commercial heifer. Congratulations, a nice show, a good set of breeding cattle today to work through.
Congratulations, Kylie Kaler, for exhibiting your reserve champion bred and owned. We're going to take just a second here so we can get our champion divisions lined up for the selection of our grand and reserve grand champion heifer. I'd like to announce that your grand champion cow was exhibited from your Angus division and awarded to Aubrey O'Meara. Again, your grand champion cow was exhibited, cow-calf pair was exhibited by Aubrey O'Meara. And if Aubrey can come to the ringside, we will have her awards for her. As the crowd gathers here, we are going to be selecting our grand champion and reserve grand champion heifer. As soon as this committee lets me know that they're all lined up, we'll go ahead and get this round started. As soon as we finish this selection, we will move into our bred and owned champion selection. And here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, your champion Angus heifer was exhibited by Grafton Condon with BKCE JRIP Lady, and she is a January 24 heifer. Your champion Hereford heifer was exhibited by Emily Fritz. SSS Fancy is a March 5th. From your Red Angus division, Lexi Zepp is exhibiting CAF Larkaba Princess, and she is a March 8th heifer. Your Shorthorn champion is being exhibited by Alyssa Spielman and is Shanti. She's an April 4th. Your champion bred and owned heifer, your champion Shorthorn Plus heifer is being exhibited by Georgiana Condon, and she is Patricia. Your champion Sim Solution is Grady McGrew with GCR Something About, and she is in March 18th heifer. AOB division winner is Tristan Kaiser with RWFC Mercedes, and she is in April. And your commercial heifer is being exhibited by Brendan Bosley and weighing in at 968 pounds. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for our grand champion heifer drive. We'd like to take this chance to introduce our judge today from Kansas. Scott Shockey is retired from Kansas State University. For 32 years, he taught at K-State, and 22 years of that he spent coaching the livestock judging team. He is married to Candy, also a retired teacher. His sons, Shane and wife Melissa Grimmel, and Shiloh and wife Jamie, and they are expecting their first grandchild in a week. Talk about exciting. I'm waiting patiently. Currently, he's full-time ranching and raises purebred Simmental cattle in the Flint Hills of Kansas. Please put your hands together and welcome Judge Shockey here to Maryland today to help us sort through our heifers.
Well, it's been a pleasure. She didn't mention I'm actually a fill-in. I'm a substitute. I'm a Team B or whatever for one of your favorites, Chris Mullinex. He was in the middle of his county fair, and there's a little bit of a mix-up on the dates of this show. The calendar's a little wonky this year, and so I think I know I'm off every day, but everybody's off a week because of the way the calendar falls. So it's just one of those honest mistakes. But when Chris called and wondered if I had time to come do this? I said, absolutely, because as I mentioned earlier in the day, that this would have been, many, many years ago, one of the county fairs that I judged, and I was talking to Julie and everybody, and I knew this building wasn't here. I remember being an old building with a bunch of old trees around, and I said, yeah, indeed, that's what it was. But what I remember was the quality of the cattle was exceptionally good. And of course, I mentioned earlier too that when I got done judging shows along the coast here, Frank Feaser would be at about every one of those shows, and we would get done judging, and then we would spend another hour or two after the show discussing with Frank every class. And he would remember every animal in every class better than I could, but he was always picking my brain about what do you think of this or that, and so I always enjoyed it when I come to this part of the world. Now, real quick, I want to tell you, I've done a handful of county fairs this summer. There are probably 6 heifers out here that would have won of the 7 or 8 county fairs I've done. There's that many heifers that would have been a supreme at all those fairs. So recognize the quality that you have here, and I hope that you do. I'm sure that you do, because I'm sure some of these young people will go to the state show, or go to your state fair, end up in Louisville, and can be very, very competitive. It's really strong in the British division here. Every one of these 4 British cattle, I think, are exceptionally good. Each a little different, but they have a quality look to them. I thought as we progressed and we got into, particularly the Simmental, the AOBs, that's where it really heated up, and it became a really, really strong show. So it's fun to come back 30-some years later, see the improvements. This is a huge, beautiful facility. As hot as it is outside, it seems pretty nice inside here in this facility, so it's been a lot of fun. But your people have not changed, your cattle have not changed, they just continue to get better and better. One thing that I know sometimes we forget, and I mentioned this earlier too, there's a lot of good stock people that are in this state. And it's kind of easy when you grow up in the Midwest, you think only the real world happens in the Midwest. Well, I recognize by spending 4 or 5 years kind of on the eastern part of the U.S. that there's a lot of real stuff that happens out here, and I applaud you guys for keeping at it. I know agriculture has to be really tough here because it's not too easy back home, but I've got friends on both coasts, and we talk about the hurdles they have and the trials and tribulations to get through agriculture at both sides of this country, and it's not easy. So I applaud you all. I would have quit a long time ago and moved back to the Midwest, where I don't see this many people in a month, okay? And you guys see this many people every day. Where I live in the Flint Hills of Kansas, and I was going to put that in my bio, I might see 5 people in a day, and that includes my family. So at any rate, great lineup. There is one that I think is more special than the others, and I say that because she represents her breed extremely well, and I think that's most important for me. But also in this lineup, I just think she's probably the most unique breeding piece to work with. So please give all the young people a nice hand. Not only our champions, but all those that are not out here, they work just as hard as the ones that are out here. The staff, my ring help, y'all have been a great group to work for again. Let's go out and we'll pick you a couple of champions.
Your grand champion heifer was awarded to Grady McGrew. And Grady's gonna bring in, or Sawyer's gonna help his brother out here and bring in the reserve from that AOB division, or Simmental division. And this is GCR Honey Bell coming in for contention for reserve.
I have a lot of 4-H stories for you. When I was a kid and a 4-H dad, and just real quick, I want to share one with you because I don't want some of you to say, well, yeah, he's a Simmental breeder, he's going to use a Simmental, because that's not it. I wanted to share with you, there was a county agent in Kansas that judged a lot of county shows. In fact, I coached his son one time. His name was Dean Davis, and some of you Hereford breeders would know him. It did not matter what county fair he judged, it did not matter how good or how bad the Hereford was. Guess who was going to be supreme at every show? The Hereford. Dean was committed to his breed of cattle. And so I saw Dean last year at this county fair, and we got to laughing about it. And I said, you know, it might be a little frustrating, but one thing about it, Dean, you were really predictable. We knew who was going to win the show before, you know, it just a matter who won the Herefords, and they were going to be the champion overall. So real quick, I didn't pick that one because she's a Simmental. I would like to have that one. I could do a lot of fun things with her in my own cow herd. I think that's a really unique specimen. This young man has bred and owned, if I remember right, so congratulations to you. The other one I think is really unique is actually, and I gave her a tongue lashing earlier, the main Angus. That's a very nice heifer. Let's give her a good hand. She's going to have your Reserve Supreme. Congratulations to her as well.
Results of your Grand Champion Drive is as follows. Congratulations, Grady McGrew with GCR Something About will be your Grand Champion heifer, and she came from the Simmental division. Your Reserve Grand Champion is exhibited by Tristan Kaiser with RWFC Mercedes. Grady McGrew will also be your Grand Champion bred and owned heifer. There will be pictures at the backdrop. Pictures at the backdrop at this time. If you are a division winner and you would like pictures at the backdrop. Kelsey Zepp is here today, and she will be taking pictures. If you're getting pictures, you can go to her website, which is kazphotography.smugmug.com. Again, KAZphotography, smugmug.com. If you check Facebook, we will also have those links on the Carroll County Fair and the Carroll County Beef page. Kelsey will also have a link on her website page for pictures. Thank you all for being here this morning. We'll see you at 4 o'clock for the sheep showmanship.